Breaking news! The temperature is rising behind the scenes of the Philadelphia Eagles, and what started as simple trade speculation around A.J. Brown has now taken a turn that nobody expected, pulling in big names, serious questions, and a situation that is getting harder to ignore by the day. And I've got to walk you through everything carefully, because this is no longer just about football. It's about credibility, relationships, and what could be happening behind closed doors across the NFL. But before we go any further, make sure you've already hit that like button if you've been an Eagles fan for more than 20 years. It's always great to see fans from different generations here. And if you can, drop this in the comments. Go Eagles! My heart bleeds green. Now, let's get straight into it. What we're seeing unfold right now started with something that, at first glance, didn't even seem directly connected to the Eagles. Exclusive photos surfaced showing NFL insider Dianna Russini and Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel together at a private resort in Arizona. Not just casually, we're talking about multiple moments. Poolside, in a hot tub, on a rooftop with a private view, even walking closely together and sharing what looked like a very personal interaction. And here's where things begin to intersect with Philadelphia. Because if you've been following the A.J. Brown situation closely, you already know one thing. Dianna Russini has been one of the main voices reporting on trade buzz involving the Eagles' star wide receiver. For weeks, maybe longer, she has been connecting dots, mentioning interest, and keeping the idea alive that A.J. Brown could be moved under the right circumstances. And which team kept showing up in those conversations? The New England Patriots. Now take a step back and think about this carefully. Who is the head coach of the Patriots? Mike Vrabel. And what is Vrabel's history with A.J. Brown? He was his head coach back in Tennessee, where Brown developed into one of the most dominant receivers in the league. That connection is real, it's strong, and it has always mattered. So when you see Russini, one of the main reporters fueling A.J. Brown trade discussions, spending time in that kind of setting with Vrabel, it naturally raises questions. Serious ones. Because in journalism, especially in the NFL, access is everything. Information doesn't just appear. It comes from sources. General managers, coaches, executives. And when a reporter consistently breaks or pushes stories connected to a specific team or coach, people start wondering where that information is coming from. In this case, the speculation becomes unavoidable. Is it possible that some of the A.J. Brown trade buzz was influenced, or at least informed, by someone like Vrabel? And if so, does that create a conflict of interest? That's exactly what people are debating right now. Now, to be fair, both Russini and Vrabel have denied any wrongdoing and stated that the photos don't show the full context, claiming they were at the resort with other people. But the images that surfaced don't show anyone else present in those moments, which only adds more fuel to the fire. And this is where it gets even more interesting from a football perspective. Because some of Russini's reports have actually been accurate. She was among the first to mention that the Los Angeles Rams had interest in A.J. Brown, something that was later confirmed. There were even reports suggesting that a potential deal involving the Rams was closer than many Eagles fans realized. So this isn't about dismissing her credibility entirely. She clearly has sources. She clearly has access. The question is, where is that access coming from? And how close is too close? Meanwhile, Mike Vrabel himself didn't shut down the idea of pursuing A.J. Brown when asked publicly. In fact, he gave a very typical but telling response, saying that any opportunity to improve the team would be explored. That's not a denial. That's a door left open. And if you're the Eagles front office, if you're Howie Roseman, you're watching all of this unfold very carefully. Because A.J. Brown isn't just another player, he's a cornerstone of this offense, a key weapon for Jalen and one of the emotional leaders of this team. Trading him would not be a small move. It would be a franchise-altering decision, which is why all of this noise, the reports, the connections, the timing, it starts to feel bigger than just speculation. It feels like something is happening behind the scenes, even if we don't yet have the full picture. And Eagles fans are right to pay attention, because whether this leads to nothing, or whether it's the beginning of something much bigger, the implications are massive for the future of this team. So now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe there's something deeper going on behind these A.J. Brown trade rumors? Or is this all being blown out of proportion? Let's go Eagles. Picking up right where we left off, because this situation keeps getting deeper the more you connect the dots. And for Eagles fans, this is exactly the kind of story that you can't just ignore or brush aside. When you zoom out and look at the full picture, it's not just about Diana Rossini and Mike Vrabel being seen together. It's about timing, influence, and how narratives are built in the NFL. Because while fans are reacting to headlines, front offices are evaluating leverage, and agents are paying attention to every single report that gains traction. And that brings us right back to A.J. Brown. Think about how this entire situation has evolved over time. The trade rumors didn't explode overnight. They were gradually introduced into the conversation, repeatedly mentioned, and tied to specific teams, especially the Patriots. That kind of reporting doesn't just stay in the media world. It reaches locker rooms, it reaches players, it reaches decision-makers. And if you're A.J. Brown, you hear your name constantly being floated in trade discussions, linked to a former coach you trust, connected to a team that might be interested in bringing you in. That can create tension, even if nothing is happening officially. At the same time, if you're the Eagles, you have to manage that noise carefully. Because this team is built to compete, not 2 or 3 years from now. You've got Jalen Hurts in his prime, a roster that's been constructed to contend, and a fan base that expects results. Moving a player like A.J. Brown would only happen under very specific conditions. We're talking about a massive return, something that fundamentally reshapes the roster. And yet, the fact that we even got close to that scenario, especially with reports that talks involving the Rams were more serious than fans initially thought, tells you that the Eagles have at least explored possibilities behind the scenes. That's what makes this entire story feel so real. Now, add the Vrabel factor again. This isn't just any coach. This is someone who has a proven relationship with A.J. Brown, someone who understands how to use him, and someone who clearly isn't shutting down the idea of adding elite talent to his roster. If you're New England, you're trying to build something strong. You want a true #1 receiver. You want a guy who changes your offense instantly. A.J. Brown fits that perfectly. So from a football standpoint, the interest makes complete sense. But from a journalistic standpoint, that's where things get complicated. Because when the person reporting the story is potentially very close to the person who would benefit from that story becoming reality, people start questioning everything. Not just this report, but previous ones, future ones, and the entire flow of information. And again, this doesn't mean anything inappropriate definitively happened, but perception matters. In the NFL, perception can shape narratives just as much as facts do. Inside the Eagles organization, you can bet they're aware of all of this. Howie Roseman is known for being calculated, strategic, and always thinking several moves ahead. He's not going to react emotionally to rumors, but he will absolutely monitor how those rumors affect player value, team chemistry, and potential negotiations. And let's be very clear about one thing. The Eagles do not have to trade A.J. Brown. He's under contract. He's productive. He's a key piece of the offense. There is no urgency from Philadelphia's side unless something changes internally, which is why, at least right now, This feels more like external pressure and narrative building than an inevitable move. But in the NFL, things can shift quickly. All it takes is one serious offer, one moment of tension, one internal decision that changes the direction of a franchise. And suddenly, what once felt impossible becomes real. That's why this story matters. Not just because of the off-field drama, but because of what it could mean moving forward. Eagles fans should stay alert, not panicked, but aware. Because whether this ends with A.J. Brown staying in Philadelphia and proving all the noise wrong, or whether this turns into one of the biggest moves of the offseason, it's clear that something unusual is happening around this situation. Now, as we wrap this up, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and don't forget to click on the video that's on your screen right now. Go Eagles!